Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is tropical update number 17 on severe tropical storm Elsa. Elsa has prompted tropical storm and storm surge warnings, or watches rather, to go up for portions of the western Florida coast, as well as some of those watches being changed to warnings as the storm makes its way closer to the United States. But first, it's affecting Cuba, and let's take a look at how that's going so far. We see Elsa with a good amount of convection on the south side of the rotation today, and overall, a good amount of convection with the storm as a whole. Tropical storm warnings remain in effect for most of Cuba, Jamaica, and the Florida Keys from Dry Tortugas to Craig Key. Tropical storm watches for the Cayman Islands. One of the provinces is in Cuba, Flamingo, Florida to the Anclote River, the Florida Keys from Craig Key to Ocean Reef, the Florida Bay, and Tampa Bay. All of those areas currently under tropical storm watches, potentially being moved up to warnings with time. As I mentioned, there is also storm surge watches. We'll talk about that once we get to the storm surge page. Once again, Elsa isn't anything spectacular, but it looks like it's working on it. We see from its radar presentation there is strong, heavy rainfall on the east side of the circulation, but it's nothing to write home about yet. Just really heavy rainfall is a big deal with that. We currently have another Hurricane Hunter en route to the storm. As I mentioned, since it's the Air Force, have to fly around Cuba because that's how it works. We don't want like the Russian Air Force flying over the United States. Cuba doesn't want the United States Air Force flying over their country. That's how it is. We'll have that plane in there hopefully soon to get more information. We'll have another Hurricane Hunter again tomorrow morning, and another one around this time tomorrow as well. Most likely time of arrival puts us, to the Florida Keys Monday night potentially, and as we continue up northward, much of the East Coast is going to be near the center of this storm, if not going to be infected, at least in some respect, due to this storm. Hurricane watch still in effect for parts of Cuba, though that's not a huge concern necessarily. Now that Elsa's center has basically passed the southern mountainous region of Cuba, does have a brief period before it makes landfall on Cuba to re-strengthen slightly. Could move up to 70 miles an hour again. There's an outside chance it reaches hurricane strength again before it crosses Cuba, of course, weakening there again. And it should be limited from strengthening much further in the Gulf, if at all, due to that wind shear I mentioned in the previous video at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Also, of course, a concern for the United States is going to be flooding. Of course, like I said, and we saw on the Cuba radar, lots of rain occurring in Cuba at the moment, up to 15 inches in spots. Parts of Cuba and Jamaica are possible. 3 to 5 inches for the Cayman Islands. We're looking at 2 to 4, isolated to 6 for much of Florida. Potentially even greater amounts to the east of the landfall point, particularly between Fort Myers and Tampa Bay, probably going to see the highest rainfall amounts as it stands right now. Tornadoes remain possible for much of the Florida Peninsula, mainly Monday afternoon, potentially Monday night into Tuesday as well. And of course, that tornado threat will continue to the north as the storm moves north after that. 2 to 4 feet of storm surge possible from the Suwannee River southward to Bonita Beach in Collier County. 1 to 3 feet from Bonita Beach down to Flamingo, Florida. 1 to 2 feet for the Florida Keys. That area at 2 to 4 feet has a storm surge watch in effect. Again, that could be upgraded to a warning with time, especially if we get a landfall point narrowed down, the storm strengthens a little, something along those lines. Any of those occur, we could see a 3 to 5 foot, and thus a storm surge warning be issued for the area. So that's just something to keep an eye on at the moment. Again, storm surge, rain, wind, all of these factors, as it is with any tropical cyclone. Of course, this one isn't anything too crazy, but definitely something still possible. Again, there's a look at the spaghetti models, or some of the deterministic models of this storm. Nothing out of craziness, but just a few possibilities to keep our eyes on. Again, Florida landfall is going to occur probably in about 3 days from now. And take a look at the intensity guidance. It could strengthen a little bit before weakening over Cuba, perhaps strengthen a little bit more, but not much, before making landfall in Florida. Likely weaken to a depression over the United States, still producing rain and wind, before re-strengthening after it exits North Carolina and continues into the Atlantic. Much the same story is shown on these models right here, the ensembles. Nothing too crazy. Again, the one on the right, like I mentioned last video, really isn't that reliable. One, because it's so old, and two, because it's just not that great. We do take a look here at the European ensembles, much better than it was at our 2 p.m. update with the 0Z model. The 12Z model, much more realistic of what could occur, and we do actually see some oranges in some of the ensemble members before Elsa makes landfall in Florida. And what that orange means, if we look in the chart in the upper right hand corner, we could potentially see a hurricane landfall in Florida. It's not out of the question, but the majority of the models keep Elsa as a tropical storm. We could also see a hurricane if it just skirts through Florida real quickly, moves back out to sea over part of the Atlantic before moving into the South and North Carolina region. That's also a possibility for Elsa to strengthen. Lots of things still on the table. Here's the deterministic European model. We do see, again, Elsa strengthening after it leaves North Carolina, but, it's not much is going to change. Perhaps a little bit of strengthening between now and when Elsa makes landfall on Florida. The next update will be tomorrow morning. We'll have another one out tomorrow evening. Have a happy 4th, everybody. Go watch some fireworks tonight. I know I will be. So that is all we have. Chris Sixon Info with our Catholic Media.